Welcome back. It's League on Lock and it's Power Rankings Fun Day Monday. Time to break it down. 1 to 10. We're shifting over to Europe, which looks completely different than North America because there are actual, gaps in between teams and you can kind of see different tier lists. It's not everyone bunched with almost the exact same record from 1 to 10. Misfits have been dominating the summer split, no doubt. They've been at the top of the power rankings pretty much since week 2, and they're still sitting there here in week 5, even though they finally lost the game. Fnatic did take them down. It's not enough to take them out of that top spot because the other 9 games, they have just been so dominant. But what it is enough to do is bring Fnatic up to that second spot, sitting at 7-3, and taking the silver medal away from the likes of G2. G2 are 1-3 over their last 4 games ever since they came back from Rift Rivals. They've got that NA hangover, too much Chipotle, too much in and out. Yankos and Perks were guys who said they wanted to enjoy that NA lifestyle, and now they're playing for fun in EU, but they still look like a solid team coming in at number 3. But Fnatic is looking like the defending champions from the LCS, the team that put up some noise at MSI, and Caps is an absolute animal. But Fnatic looking like maybe in the next couple of weeks they're going to be taking down Misfits and reclaiming their throne atop those power rankings. It was the first time they've beaten Misfits in 2018. They actually were the only team to 2-0 them in the spring split. So good for the boys in gold to get a win against Misfits. We'll see how they rebound. Hans Sama was saying he feels like he had less impact the last couple of weeks, so maybe he'll start playing some mages in the bottom lane. But, it's all about diversity. You don't have to stick to one, although certain players have been doing just that. The top 4 had pretty much been the same in our power rankings for the last few weeks, but not only do we have G2 and Fnatic swapping, but we got a new team in the top 4. We're talking about Schalke 04 Esports, and they had a pretty easy week that if they didn't 2-0 this, you'd have to be disappointed in them because, the likes of H2K, a team that they should be taking down because everyone should be taking them down. But they did 2-0. They go to 6-4. They're above 500. Is the hype train back? After competition like that, the hype train probably isn't back, but they are in the top 4. They still should be a playoff team, so if the expectations are playoffs, maybe even winning a round in the playoffs, then sure, the hype train is back for these guys. They got too talented a roster. Nukeduck was fantastic this weekend. They should be in the playoffs. Splice, a nice 2-0 week. They're back to 500 after their abysmal 4-0 start. 5-1 since then. Got the big win against Team Liquid at Rift Rivals. Obviously, other than that, they didn't look that great at the event, but they're climbing up the standings, deservedly so, in that 5th spot. And Vitality round out the playoff spots. They're down a couple of spots from last week. Tough 0-2 week. It looked like early on in the split, the Vitality boys and Yamato Cannon had a great read on the meta. They were playing these ridiculous things in the bottom lane. Obviously, the Heimerdinger Fiddlesticks, they were some of the first guys. They did that in the debut game of the split, opening game of the split. They were busting out Heimerdinger on Attila. Now he's gone more so back to the traditional AD carries and hasn't quite been as successful on them. And Jizuki is kind of playing the role of Huni in EU, where we know he's a fantastic talent and can completely take over games for his squad. But he's getting caught out a little bit, dying more than he should, and just really moments where he shouldn't die, playing way too over-aggressive. That's kind of been the theme for him in 2018 summer. And as we've seen in the short stint that this Vitality roster has been in the LCS, when Jizuki is not popping off, it's hard for them to come by any sort of win. So we'll see. Vitality should still be a playoff team heading forward. The bottom 4 in EU stand the same as the week before. Roccat, definitely the best out of the bottom 4, and I still think is more than capable of taking one of these playoff spots. They just they can't get it done against the top teams. They beat the bottom tier and can compete against the mid-tier teams, but the top 3 in Misfits, Fnatic, and G2 are just in another tier above anyone else in the league. Really, you could say Misfits and Fnatic are in their own tier, then G2's in their own little B tier hanging out, and then there's other people. Unicorns still better than Giants and H2K. Giants, they play in some ugly games, man. The Splice Giants game was one of the ugliest ones we've seen in the summer split. H2K, I thought they would follow in the footsteps of the BBQ Olivers and get their first win of the split. They couldn't get it done. They were close. They were very close against the likes of Giants, but did not come away with the W. They're sitting at 0-10. Here's hoping they can get at least one win to break the goose egg and, maybe beat Coast and get 2 wins and not be 1-17. Standout performer for Week 5 in EU. You got to go for the team that took down Misfits, handed them their first loss of the split, Fnatic, and who else, where else are you looking but in that mid lane in the likes of Cap. Ever since this guy showcased he can compete with the best of the best at MSI, he has been on an absolute tear. He only died once in Week 5, played the Irelia and the Wukong, the first Wukong mid we've seen in EU and really across any of the major regions. People have been playing it a lot in solo queue in the bottom lane with that armor pen on his queue. It seems a little bit disgusting to go against. It's not exactly fun to play against with the EQ alt combo, but the first game against the Unicorns Caps was just absolutely murdering people on the Irelia. I felt bad for Exile in that matchup because it was just not fair. He was getting jungle attention as well, but this guy has shown far and away he's the best mid laner in EU. We're going back to last split, and I just really want to see him on the international stage again because he was far and away the best performer on Fnatic, and clearly EU is not testing him right now. His champion pool is immense when you're picking, I mean, we've seen what he can do on Zoe. You're picking Wukong mid and you're looking fantastic. He only had 1 kill in that game against Misfits, but Hylissang was getting a lot of the kills from him, stealing them with ignites and stuff like that. Look at that, that's through an exhaust. He's basically one-shotting Hansama on that Lucian there, so he was an absolute machine on the Wukong. Can't wait to see what other picks he's going to come out with in EU, but Fnatic, no Reckless, no problem. They still seem to be thriving. They had the 80 carry Gangplank for Bwipo. It looks like they're sticking with this roster, and why not? Because it's working. They're firing on all cylinders, and right now, I think Caps is the front runner for MVP for the entire split out in EU. We'll see if he can keep up those standards going forward.